So, it's looking more and more likely every single day that Juventus' next summer transfer will be Jadon Sancho from Manchester United, okay? Now, I've already given my opinion on the player, but I haven't really given my opinion, let alone broken down why Igor Tudor wants him. Why Damien Comolli favours him. Why Juventus have been chasing him for about a month. They also inquired about him in the summer, last summer, for Thiago Motta. Like, what's so special about him? Why do Juventus want him? And why, in my opinion, it's the biggest gamble of the summer when it comes to Juventus? Because look, what Jadon Sancho done in the Borussia Dortmund top 5 years ago, it was impressive. It was the reason why he got himself a £75 million move to Manchester United. Now, ever since then, his career, it's been downhill. Even though, in my opinion, he's been failing upwards. But anyways, his career's been going downhill in terms of contributions, in terms of impact, in terms of his own personal development. Why? We have to familiarize ourselves with why. Why has it gone wrong? Where can he be most penetrative? Where can he be most impactful? And why this is a massive gamble for Juventus? Because if Juventus manage to somehow, and it happens in football, let's be fair, let's be objective. If Juventus can rejuvenate his career and revive it and get him to replicate the performances that we've seen in a Borussia Dortmund top from 5 years ago, then Juventus will be laughing at every club in the world by saying, we've just signed this player of this talent, of this quality for 25 million. And he's of the right age. If he follows the pathway and he still continues to go down the same route that he's been going over the past 3 to 4 years, Juventus are screwed more than you'd imagine. Because now they've got themselves a 25 million asset that's not contributing worth of a 25 million asset. He's not impactful, he's not penetrative, he's on a lot of wages, and his contract will be big. And now Juventus will have themselves a player, an asset that's deemed surplus to requirements, but that they can't really fit in. So we need to familiarize ourselves why Juventus really want him and how Igor Tudor can fit him in. Now, I feel like I'm the best to speak about this, having watched him for a very large enough sample size. Okay, so now let's talk some football. Okay, let's talk some football. Jadon Sancho, how can he fit into this Juventus team? How can Tudor, in my opinion, try and get as much possible out of him? In my opinion, one, Jadon Sancho for me is not a touchline winger. Okay, now where the positive is, Juventus under Igor Tudor, unless they change the formation, and I don't know. As of now, 3-4-2-1, they don't really deploy wingers. And there's a reason why sometimes people look at people like Nico Gonzalez, they look at Francisco Conceição, and they say, I would cash in on you two. Because you guys are not really inside forward roaming number 10s. You guys are more touchline wingers. Do you guys really suit this system? And that's why, for example, we've seen Nico Gonzalez at times deployed as a wing back, because that's where he can hug the flank. He can play like a touchline winger, but in reality it's a touchline wing back. Okay, do you see what I mean? Is it making sense? Okay, now Jadon Sancho for me, throughout his entire career, once he left the Bundesliga, he's not really a touchline winger. I've come to the conclusion he's more of like a central player. Like, I used to always label him as a central midfielder that you're now forcing to play out wide. Because when you look at his characteristics, when you look at the things that he's good at, and when you look at the things that he's not good at, in reality, everything that you'd want in a midfielder, like a central midfielder, he has. Everything that you'd want in a winger, he lacks. The pace, the explosiveness, the strength, the running power, the dynamism, the two-way ability to beat your man. He's good at dribbling in tight areas, but I feel like give him 40-50 yards to carry the ball into, he doesn't really have the space. He's not the most direct. And that's why throughout his career, every time he's gone out on the wing, he's been very inconsistent. This is how, in my opinion, Igor Tudor can fit him in. It's the 3-4-2-1. Now, Juventus, they set up with two roaming number 10s. Do you guys remember what I just said about 30 seconds ago? He's not really a touchline winger, in my opinion. He's more of a player that suits the game in a more central area. Now, let me back it up. It's only right I back it up. Manchester United, 2 to 3 years ago, under Erik ten Hag, I believe it was 2022-2023, they went into pre-season and they had the same dilemma. How can we fit him in? And how can we get something out of him? Erik ten Hag explored the idea of playing him as a number 10/false 9 in a 4-3-3. He had himself a very, very, very good preseason camp. Now, of course, take it with a pinch of salt. It's preseason. You're coming up against teams that aren't really trying, but in terms of impact, in terms of profile, in terms of the area of the pitch where he was most comfortable and he was most penetrative, being that focal point, being that false nine, being that player that's now required to drop deep, receive the ball. And when you do receive the ball, you've got players running ahead of you in all different directions. You've got yourself your midfielders behind you. You've got yourself the wingers making the run out wide. You might have yourself a midfielder making a run in behind. That's where he flourishes the most. Like you could see from some of these photos, these were the positions that he occupied in that central area. And Ten Hag told him, listen, just be the connector. Be the guy that receives the ball, that holds up the ball, that allows the team to sustain pressure. Because I will be honest, when it comes to retaining possession, that's where he's most gifted. Like, when you speak about midfielders, you want them to retain the ball. But when you're speaking about wingers, you want them to be your risk takers, your X-factor players. And that's why for me, once again, it backs my point of him not being a touchline winger or just him not being a winger in general. He suits more the central area. Even when you look at him during his time at Chelsea, this was an assist that he got against Brighton. Once again, he drifts inside. Look, he's got runners. He's got himself a player to his left. He can switch play to the right. And he's got 2 to 3 players making runs in behind Brighton's defence. He slides the ball in. He gets himself an assist. This is where he's most penetrative. When you put him out wide and now he's got himself 2 defenders on him, I don't feel like he's got the dynamism, let alone the explosiveness to beat 2 wingers. Like, he's not a Kenan Yildiz. Kenan Yildiz, the reason why I love him and I think he's the most important player at Juventus is because he can do both. Kenan, put him out wide, touchline, he's got the pace, he's got the trickery, he's got the dynamism to beat the fullback. Put him in a central area, he's got the technical ability. He's got the playmaking ability. He's got the IQ to play in those congested areas and still find a way to make it work. Okay? Somebody like Jadon Sancho, for me, he applies to the latter, which is you put him in that central area with bodies in and around him that he can bounce the ball off. He's good. Like, he's one of those players. He needs to get a lot of touches on the ball in order for him to have an impact. And that's why I believe Thiago Motta wanted him. Motta wanted to implement a ball-playing system at Juventus last season. And he looked at him and he was like, this is a player. You give him the ball on a consistent of basis in dangerous areas. He's not going to dribble past the team by himself, but he's going to spot those passes that other players don't. And as much as I feel like he's had a shocking career over the past 5 years, I will not deny the fact that in possession in the final third, he's got an eye for a pass. He's very selfless. He will spot passes which a lot of players wouldn't spot, and he can execute them on a consistent of basis. But the problem is, can he do this on a consistent of basis? No, because I feel like every team that he's always gone to, they've asked him to play out wide. Yes, in some moments he can drift inside, but this is where I look at Tudor, I look at Juventus, and I tell myself, if the long-term plan is to actually play him in that central area where now he has license to drift out wide to help a fullback. He has license to drift inwards to help a Jonathan David. He will always have Kenan in close proximity to him. He will always have Locatelli, Thuram close to him. I genuinely feel like he will do well. And I'm not going to turn around and tell you guys he'll be a Ballon d'Or winner and Juventus will win the Scudetto because of him. No. But I feel like we might actually turn around and say this is the first team besides Borussia Dortmund where his career has picked up. Because when you look at the way Man United utilised him, when you look at the way Chelsea utilised him, even when Borussia Dortmund took him on loan and the way they utilised him, everybody utilised him as a winger. Juventus are signing him to deploy him not as a winger, more of a roaming number 10. He can play on the left, he can play on the right. In those central areas, he's technically gifted. He's good. He's very good in tight areas, to be fair. And he's got an eye for a pass. And what you want in a central player is for them to be selfless, not to be playing for themselves. He is definitely that type of player. If somebody was to turn around and say to me, Juventus are signing him to deploy him as a wing-back, I will bet my life that it will be the biggest flop in Serie A history. But based on what I've read, it's more of a 3-4-2-1. Play him on the right-hand side with Kenan in the left, somebody like Jonathan David in advance. And I feel like there's another player that could really help him, which is somebody like Alberto Costa. When you look at Jadon Sancho, where he flourished the most was when he was at Borussia Dortmund and he had high-flying Hakimi. Hakimi's breakthrough campaign. Every time Sancho would have the ball, Hakimi is gone. Now, of course, the way football works is once the fullback goes, he drags the fullback with him. It creates more space for the winger to tuck inside and do what he does best. This is what Jadon Sancho specialised in. Hakimi would always go, drag the opposition players with him. It creates space for him to tuck inside. That's where he can play make. The fact that now Juventus from the start want him in that more central area, Like, I'm trying to be positive, okay? I'm trying to be positive, and I'm telling myself this is the first time where he's going to be utilized in a different zone, in a different position, in a completely different system to how he was used at Chelsea, Manchester United, Borussia Dortmund, and even Borussia Dortmund of the past. He's not the same player of 5 years ago, but I feel like Juventus definitely need to cater to his strengths and not put him in areas where he doesn't have the strengths for them. Juventus don't play with wingers, and maybe, just maybe, that's why they're looking at him and saying, yes, even though you're a winger on paper, you don't really play like one. You have more of the characteristics of somebody in that number 10. And it's a reason why, for example, even Erik ten Hag used him as a false 9. He used him as a number 10. But the lack of consistency, then they had that falling out. It meant he couldn't really kick on. This is my opinion on the player, and this is how I think Juventus will use him. And I reckon if they do, you will definitely get a good return. So the ROI, the return on investment, it will be far better than what some other clubs have gotten in return from somebody like Jadon Sancho. Now, if you're new, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys on another one.